Joe Swinson.
First of all, I would like to congratulate my honourable friend in securing this debate on gas and oil prices and supply. I think it's particularly timely given the huge hikes we've seen in oil prices over the summer months. The impact of the hurricanes in the US, coupled with uncertainty in the Middle East, has inflated the price of fuel. I would like to focus on what this means for people in our constituencies up and down the country. And let me put it bluntly, fuel poverty. For some people, it can mean the difference between heating their home properly or not. And I think it's particularly fitting that today, just outside this room, there is the National Pensioners' Convention lobby. Because, of course, many of those worst hit by rising fuel prices are pensioners. The National Office of Statistics figures suggest that each winter there is an increase in pensioner deaths of between 20,000 and 50,000, depending on how cold it is. Now, not all of these deaths can be directly related to cold homes, but fuel poverty certainly does play a contributing factor in the increase of deaths in the winter. Across the UK, it's estimated that there's now approximately 1.2 million households living in fuel poverty. And of these, 1 million are considered to be vulnerable households. Now, the government's own Energy White Paper in 2003 set targets on reducing fuel poverty to end it in vulnerable households in the UK by 2010 and to eradicate it in England and Scotland by 2016 and in Wales by 2018. Now, while I appreciate that fuel poverty doesn't just come under the jurisdiction of the DTI and obviously has impacts on DEFRA and the Department of Health as well, I think that part of the problem in dealing with this issue is actually there is no one single department solely responsible for driving the issue forward, and I would welcome any comments the Minister would be able to make on this issue. Competition between energy companies has actually lowered prices since 2001. This has been a good period for consumers, and that has actually enabled many households to escape the fuel poverty trap since 2001. But recent double-figure percentage rises in energy costs this winter mean that those households that had escaped the fuel poverty trap may now be plunged back into this situation. National Energy Action suggests that since 2003, gas prices have gone up by 20% and electricity prices by 15%. And of course, many more households that were not considered fuel poor before will therefore fall into this problem. I would also like to give some examples of good news in tackling fuel poverty. In Scotland, members may be aware that there was actually a drop of 50% in fuel poverty between 1998 and 2002. And this was achieved partly through two key initiatives, the Central Heating Programme, which was launched in 2001, and the Warm Deal, which dates back to 1999. These were implemented for all pensioner households, regardless of what benefits that they received, and without means testing, they were entitled to have central heating installed in their homes. And not just by installing central heating, but also making sure that insulation was put into properties, along with energy efficiency measures, helped people to save money on their fuel bills year in, year out. And nearly 40,000 households in Scotland have benefited from the installation of central heating. This obviously has an impact on fuel poverty. Using less energy, of course, costs less. And so any measures that can be taken to help homeowners and tenants increase the efficiency of the energy used in their home will certainly help the issue of fuel poverty. Also, of course, this conserves very scarce resources. My honourable friend, the member for Twickenham, looked towards the future and talked about alternative technologies. In this entire debate, it's very important to remember that, of course, it's much cheaper to conserve 1 gigawatt of electricity than to create that capacity to generate that extra gigawatt. We therefore must make more efforts to encourage people to save energy in their own homes and across industry within business. And of course, we must pursue renewable sources of energy. This has to be, for the future, a huge part of the solution. In time, it can help to reduce our dependence on gas and oil, and of course is much more clean and sustainable. Across England and Wales, the target is to increase the production of renewable sources of energy to meet 20% of energy needs by 2020. In Scotland, we've taken an even more ambitious approach and set the target at 40%. I would argue that we do need to be ambitious about this issue and support those industries which are currently developing these technologies In the interim, their costs may be higher, but with the support of government, that we should be able to ensure that in the future, not only do these companies develop technologies that can help meet our energy needs, but they can also bring huge economic advantages to the country as well. You just need to look at places like Denmark, which have become world leaders in wind farm technology. This is clearly going to be something of increasing importance towards the future, and I hope the Minister in his remarks will be able to address these points.